Well, hello, class of 2021. Juniors, oh my God, you're not juniors anymore. It is June 1st and you are officially seniors. Holy moly, how did that happen? Congratulations on reaching senior status. This is Mr. Patterson and Mrs. Duenas. May I say it again? Your favorite GLCs. All righty. So this is video message number 3 in the college and career message or video message series that we are doing. Video message number 3's topic is on selecting a college, university, using criteria to help you narrow down the colleges you'll apply to, and creating your final college list. So let's get rolling. All right, so let's get right into it. What to consider when selecting a college. Before starting the college search, it's very helpful to identify your preferences. You have to kind of just go sit out in the hammock or out in the lawn and just think about, man, what do I see myself doing at a college when I'm at school? What do I see when I visualize myself on a college campus? What have been my dreams? What do I visualize? And those are things that become important to you because that's what you have as a vision. Pursue admission to colleges which meet these criteria that you're going to come up with. We're going to walk you through how to select criteria and how to choose colleges that meet those criteria. So what to consider when selecting a college. Do not simply pursue a university for reasons that are not important in finding a great fit for you. Reasons that we consider not important to consider. You should not consider these things. These should not be criteria when you're selecting a college. So these are things don't worry about. Don't apply to a college just because your friends are applying to the college. Friends today, maybe not friends in the future. All right, so that would not be a good criteria to have on your list of things to choose from. The reputation of the college is impressive to my peers and parents. Another reason that you should really not have in your arsenal as far as selecting a college to apply to. It shouldn't really be considered. If it impresses other people, great, but it should impress you for the right reasons. You're going to be attending that college and very likely living there if you're going to live on campus. So it needs to be impressive to you for the right reasons. And then the woo-hoo factor that I always say, when you wear your college sweatshirt in March or April of your senior year on campus and people go, woo-hoo, it wears off really quickly. If you chose a school for the wrong reasons, that it's impressive to somebody else or it makes parents go woo-hoo at the grocery store with their peers and so on and so forth, trust me, if it doesn't have the things you really want out of a campus, that woo-hoo factor wears out in about 20 minutes. So avoid that. Do not simply pursue a university for reasons that are not significant to you finding a great fit. Repeating this and getting it focused in your mind. You're going to have a lot of schools that will be good fits for you, great fits for you. All right. Here are some other reasons not to consider. Don't worry about the ranking of the college. Right? If it's very high, don't just apply because the school is really ranked highly. That's not a valid reason, in my opinion. Unfortunately, sometimes as parents, we get caught up in that. Our egos get caught up in it, unfortunately. And sometimes kids' egos get caught up into it, that it's really a highly ranked school. Keep in mind, who does these rankings? All right, the rankings are used and done to sell magazines, to sell newspapers, college programs, and Princeton reviews and things like that. They're doing these rankings to sell their subscriptions and whatnot. The thing I always tell everybody is this. You need to think about, okay, this school is really ranked high in this program's ranking list. Well, what really went into the rankings? You know, what did they consider to rank that school high? Good food, big trees, green grass, who knows? So be careful of rankings. Some of the criteria that we're going to go over with, and Mrs. Duenas is going to start on them in a few minutes. They may be important to you and some won't be important to you. There's actually 13 criteria that we go over. Some of them are going to be really, really vital and really important to you as you think them through. We offer all of them up to you so that you can consider which ones are important and which ones are not. You need to really do some soul searching as we get into these criteria. After you view this video message and review the hard copy on our webpage, you need to determine your top 1, 2, or 3 criteria. And I call them your non-negotiable criteria, which means you really can't live without them. That's very, very important. So you're going to figure out which criteria are your non-negotiable criteria. When you pursue colleges and you make a list, let's say you make a list of 10 schools. You have 10 schools on your final list. All 10 of those schools should possess the top 1, 2, or 3 criteria, your non-negotiable criteria. If all the schools in your final list, the ones you apply to, have those criteria, you're probably going to be in pretty good shape. Other criteria that are on the list you might consider to be important, but they're not deal breakers. They're not in the non-negotiable category. They're not deal breakers. For example, yeah, I want to go to a school that has good food in the dining commons, but boy, I'm not going to say no to a school just because I didn't like their chicken when I visited. All right? Good food's a nice thing to have, but I can live without it. I can live with just okay food. So those are the type of criteria that would be nice to have, but they're not deal breakers. So let's turn it over to Mrs. Duenas and get into the criteria that we're going to be asking you to consider.
All right, guys, we're going to talk about the 13 criteria that Mr. Patterson brought up. I am going to discuss numbers 1 through 4. So the first thing you want to consider, academic reputation of the college. So we've talked about that. That may be a very big piece of the puzzle for you guys. For others of you, it may not be the biggest concern that you have, but definitely something to consider. Curriculum program, okay? This one should probably meet the top 3 things that you're looking for in a school. Does it have the major or majors that you're interested in pursuing as far as your college and career? And academic support services, that would be number 3. Tutoring resources on campus. What kind of services do they offer for you as far as tutoring and getting all the resources that you need on campus? Class sizes and teaching approach. So this is a big one. This would be a big one for me. A lot of you guys might think that you would be you'll thrive more in a smaller class setting. So 20 kids to 1 professor maybe. You have access to the professor via office hours versus a 400-person lecture hall. Class sizes, teaching approach, that's a big one. Think about that as you consider all those things. And then, you know, I kind of mentioned that, do professors hold office hours? Is there a time that you can go and access those professors? And get questions answered about what you're being taught in those classes.
Now, I would like to input 2 things. On the college major, because you're young still and you're still figuring out what you might want to study down the road. So when you're finding schools that might have the major you're going to actually declare and put on your applications, you might be very, very confident you're going to stay with that, and you probably will. But there's a very good chance you could change. So I would also look at, hey, if this didn't work out at this particular school in this major, are there other majors that are available on their campus that would be a nice soft bed for me to fall into that I'm interested in? Keep that in mind. And then also in the graduate teacher assistants, look at that, because a lot of your undergraduate classes at larger universities might be taught by a graduate student, somebody that's, you know, finishing his MBA or his master's degree, and he's a teacher's assistant. Look into that and see how many classes at the university you might be looking at have classrooms that are 400 people in a lecture hall taught by the graduate assistant. I think that becomes pretty important. Is this me?
Yeah.
Hello. Affiliation or institution. Criteria number 5. Private or public. Think about, do you want to go to school that's private or public, and what's the big difference? I guess when you're there, it really doesn't make a big difference, because it's hard to say, hey, I can feel I'm at a private school versus a public school. I guess the big differences would be Private schools' tendency is they are a little bit smaller, not as many students attending the university. So you might have a cozier atmosphere at a private school, but keep in mind, price tag is going to be a little bit higher. We addressed that in the prior video. Public schools might be a little bit larger with the number of students, but the price tag could be a little bit smaller. So keep that in mind, but also review what we talked about in the last video about the financial aid that can help balance those price tags out a little bit. Is a school have a religious philosophy? Do you want a school that does have a religious philosophy? Yes or no? Do you want to start at a 2-year college, a 4-year school, a vocational or technical school? You want to go to a co-ed school, boys and girls, or just a boys only or female only? And then academic facilities, criteria number 6. Library, technology labs, study areas. I tell you, my older son just started university this past school year, and that was a big thing for him. He had in his dormitory really nice study areas for him, good library, good tech labs, and just good study labs. And that became pretty important to him. I don't think he realized how important that would be until he actually got there.
Okay, criteria number 7, thinking about the school's retention and their graduation rates. So thinking about how many of the students that were there for their first year continued and came back for their second year. What's the graduation rate? How many of the kids that are actually attending this school go on and receive their diploma or their degree? And then what percentage of those students will go on to a graduate school or program? So things to consider as far as your chances of continuing on and finishing out what you've started there at that school.
Criteria number 8, size of the student body. Mentioned this a little bit ago. Do you want to go to school, a very small, cozy campus, 2,000 or 3,000 kids, where you probably will get to know most kids, see familiar faces all the time? Professors will get to know you, and as they cross by campus and see you on campus, they might be able to say, hey, how you doing there, Mr. Patterson or Kevin, and call you by name, that type of thing. Versus going to a larger campus of 15,000 plus, very rarely will you see professors out and about on campus or in the dining halls or things like that. Those are things for you to consider and really think about, boy, how important is that to me? Location. Do you want to live at home and commute from home? Do you want to stay on campus? Those are big things. Do you want to stay in state, meaning California, or do you want to venture out of state? Out of the country. Some students venture out of the country to go to their university. Climate. You're going to live there for 4 years. Remember this. Don't get all excited about the college name and reputation and everything, and it's in snow country and you don't like being cold. That would be a bad choice for you. So consider the climate. Cold country, warm country. That's pretty doggone significant when you get right down to it, because you're living there every day.
And then criteria number 10, the college setting. So there's colleges in small rural areas, in big cities, in suburban areas. So think about where you want to attend school, where are you going to thrive most in that kind of a setting. And that would kind of lead into number 11 for criteria, your campus environment. So is this a lively campus? Is it a quiet campus? Something that we're suggesting there is read the campus newspaper just to get a feel for the pulse of the school, and you can access those online, I'm sure. But thinking about, you know, the students and faculty, staff, how diverse of a population is it? Housing facilities. So if I had made housing facilities one of my top 3 things for where I went to undergraduate, I probably would not have gone there. My dorm did not have air conditioning. It didn't have a heater. But I have great memories of having a spray bottle and a fan and like using that as a mister to get through that freshman year. But if that's important to you, it's something to consider. Some schools have great housing facilities while others have buildings that are really, really old. Like Mr. Patterson mentioned earlier, good dining commons, food. And then how safe and secure is the campus? You know, there are some really great schools out there that are in some really tough neighborhoods. And so things to consider as far as where you're feeling comfortable in your space there at that campus.
All right, criteria number 12, activities on campus. How active do you want to be when you're there? We encourage all students, when you get onto the campus, own it. Get involved. Become a Bronco if you go to a school with a mascot named Broncos, or an Aggie, or whatever their mascot is. Just own the campus and become part of that campus. Does it have sports, intramural sports? Do you want to get involved in playing those type of recreational sports with your classmates and people that go to school there? What other types of activities are available? The school newspaper is a good source of it. If you're able to visit the school on campus, you can see the bulletin boards and see what's going on and talk to kids. Fraternities, sororities, are you into that? Do you want to become part of the Greek system, the social system that way? The religious activities, I had mentioned that earlier. Big time college athletics, that's probably a funny one for some of you, but I have some students that I've talked to. They really want to go to a university because they've grown up watching big time college sports on TV. They want to be the college fan in the stands at the football and basketball games and wear the school colors and be the fanatic, the fan, and that's cool. And they want to do that as an alum down the road in 20 years and say, that's my school on TV type of thing. So, you know, I've had kids that have chosen a school, and then when they got there, they asked where the football game is, and they said, we don't have football. And they were devastated because they didn't check into it closely enough. So big time college athletics, is that important to you? Then it should be on your list. Cultural activities, consider that. Party school, I think that's always kind of a weird one. How do you really know if it's a party school? What's the reputation? Is the reputation accurate? I guess any school can be considered a party school. If you're a party guy, you'll find a party, right? So you figure that out, whatever works for you.
All right, so criteria number 13, this one may not be at the top of your criteria, but it probably is at the top of your parents. So the cost, okay, really taking into consideration the cost of the school and what you or parents are going to be contributing towards that education in the future. So thinking about not just how much you're paying for tuition, but if you're going to live on campus, room and board is another big chunk of dinero that that you're going to be putting towards your education. And then availability of merit-based grants and scholarships. So we've talked a little bit about this before with public schools versus private schools. The UCs, Cal States, they do not have the funding that they can provide as much grants for merit-based achievements, but a lot of private schools will be able to provide more in that regard. So if you're applying for financial aid, this would be a big part of that decision, looking at what you are being offered from different schools to attend, and then availability of part-time jobs on campus as well. That might be something that might help offset some of the cost of your education.
All right, let's talk about perfect fit. That kind of, you know, couple phrases that'll come up a lot. My dream school, perfect fit, and so on and so forth. Keep in mind, you're going to have several schools that you're going to find that could be considered perfect fit because they have the non-negotiable items, the criteria that we've talked about. So don't get caught up in, you have one school that's your dream school and it's your perfect fit. You could be setting yourself up for a big disappointment and not opening your eyes enough to all the other schools that have so many great things that would be great for you and really good fits for you. So don't get caught up in that there's only one college campus for you that's perfect. There's going to be many. And the key is, we talked about this earlier, is apply to colleges which meet your selection criteria, those non-negotiable items. If you apply to 10 schools and all 10 of those schools have your 2 or 3 non-negotiable items, that is a tremendous start to you being very satisfied at the campus you eventually go to. But the last point on this before we move on to the next slide is, and Mrs. Duenas hit on this earlier, you got to make sure that one of those non-negotiable items is your major, your area of study, that it has your major or it has other areas that if you do change a major, you could go to this direction or this direction. Sometimes when you go to a school and you have maybe a plan B or C, if that school does not have that major for plan B or C, what are you going to do? Stay there and be unhappy, or you're going to end up transferring schools, which is not the end of the world, but we'd rather you didn't have to go through that. So definitely make sure your major choice is one of your non-negotiable criteria, in our opinion. Because when you get right down to it, isn't that why you're going to college, right? Yes.
Okay, so now that we've talked about the criteria, there's 13 different things there. Start thinking about your list of potential colleges. If you haven't done that already, now's a great time to start looking into that. But look at the criteria, the different things that we've talked about today, and some of them may be totally not a big deal to you at all. Your list doesn't have to have 13 different things that are, important criteria to you. It could be 5 of the 13. But think about those things that are important to you and start researching those schools and making a list based on that. So research individual admission requirements for those specific campuses. Visit the campuses. Guys, we're in very strange times. And so right now we would be cheering you on to go and visit campuses and go to their preview day and walk around the different classes. With the state of affairs right now, probably not going to happen. But so many of these schools have opened up virtual tours, which is a really cool thing and something that you should most definitely take advantage of. I talk a lot about my college experience. I had a great 4 years. I was at the school that I was meant to go to. I didn't know that until I went to the school. I applied to it because I was kind of forced to by my mom. And I ended up going to visit the school, and I fell in love with the school. Being there and seeing the vibe of the campus, where it was located, just being able to see the campus through your own eyes, it's so important. So make sure that if you're not able to go physically to those schools, check out those virtual campus tours. You'd be surprised at how helpful they can be in giving you perspective of the campus. And then your list of schools should be 8 to 10. Some of you are going to pick 5, some of you are going to have 12. Okay, but we're kind of trying to push you towards 8 to 10. That might be a good number to kind of stick to as far as schools that you're looking at for admission or for application. And then continuing with this, your list of 8 to 10 schools should include 3 to 4 of the following. So Mr. Patterson's going to go into the next slide, but we're going to talk about what we've said over and over, shooting for some safety schools, some target schools, and some reach schools. So this is what we are encouraging you to do. And then, because who doesn't like choices, right? The best thing you can do is have several choices for yourself.
All right, so as you start producing your list of schools, let's just say 10, it's easier for me to say. We put them into categories. This is just to help you kind of make that list and to kind of separate them. So now that we have a list of 10 schools, and all 10 schools possess the most important criteria that we just covered, they all have the non-negotiable criteria for you. Now we need to strategize, and we need to put them into categories. We have safety schools, target schools, and reach schools. Now those are the category terms that we're going to use, and you should have anywhere from 2 to 4 schools in each of those categories. So let's get into the details there. Safety schools. Now safety schools, you'd have 2 to 4 schools on your list that are safety schools. The only way you know which is a safety target or reach school is by doing your research, all right? And we're going to give you a document that will help you with that. But you need to research the university on their web pages through many different resources that we'll provide for you at the end of this presentation. Schools that are based on your research, where your high school courses you've taken, your grade point average, your test scores exceed the average that particular university has admitted in the past several years. They will give you ranges of SAT scores that they admitted in 2019, 2018, and so on. So, and test scores, the same thing. Remember, they give ranges. They're very rarely does a school say you have to have a 28 on your ACT or you're out. There are ranges. So safety schools would be schools that all of your data, all of your numbers exceed most of the averages, the mid-range of that university. So 2 to 4 schools that are safety schools. Target schools should be schools where your same research, where your GPA test scores are right in the middle, right at the average, in that mid-range of the university's published averages, right smack dab in the middle. Some are, your grades are going to be higher, some are a little bit lower. It's right in the middle. So again, 2 to 4 schools that qualify in the target category. And then reach schools. These are the schools that just have a very, very low acceptance rate. It's hard to get into. Not because it's a better school or it's a hard school or whatever it might be. It just means that it's a popular school for whatever reason. It's got a great football team. It's unbelievable how universities' popularity kind of goes in ebbs and flows, meaning schools that win the national championship in football and basketball, you'd be amazed. The next school year, their admission application numbers go way up because kids want to apply there because of the publicity that school got. Reach schools would be schools that your numbers, the same numbers we talked about, GPA test scores, things of that nature, the courses you've taken, they are right on the bottom area or kind of in the range that you meet them. You might fall short in some categories, and the school just might have a very, very low acceptance rate because of the number of kids that apply versus the number they accept. Those would be reach schools, okay? Have 2 to 3 schools in that category, go for it. You know, somebody's going to get into those schools.
And then, you know, we're giving you guys all these different resources to continue your research, okay? So if you haven't utilized your College Board account for this purpose yet, now is the time to do it, okay? If you've been to my office and we've talked about colleges, chances are we've probably gone on a few of these websites on College Board, but College Board is a huge resource to you guys. They have a ton of information regarding schools, application requirements, exactly what we're talking about, showing you the mid-ranges, the averages for GPAs and test scores. Great resource. So one of the blogs that we've put on here that you can look at would be 5 ways to start your college search. And that's a blog that was written on College Board. And then also another link there that would help build your college list. Okay, so there's a college planning handout that they put together on College Board. And then Big Future, that's my personal favorite. So like I said, if you've been to my office, I love this one. If you click on that link and you are completely lost, you have no idea where to start in looking for schools, you can, on the left, start picking different things that meet the criteria that you're looking for. Size of the campus, type of environment, majors, athletics, co-ed, anything. You can click, 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 and what it does is it generates a list of schools that meets that criteria. So huge resource to you guys using Big Future on College Board, going to College Insight or Unigo. That's also another resource that we've heard about that could be helpful to you in your college planning process. And then lastly, for research purposes, you can go on this College Simply website, and they also provide information for you in helping narrow down your college search. And then this is a document that we have put together. We're going to put it on our webpage, and it will kind of help you. It's a one-page document, but if you're not feeling real certain about how to narrow down your search here and how to keep track of the criteria that you're looking at, then this might be a helpful document to you. You can print it, and it's a little bit longer than what's shown on our screen here, but it's just helping you organize your college search process, and that way you have it written down. It's a little bit more for you visual learners. It might be helpful to you in that regard.
And the nice part about this document, is that once, let's say you narrow your schools down to the 10 schools, you can still use this document because it tells you when the deadlines are for early admission, early decision, regular decision. It'll keep you on your toes. All right, so a couple little different topics as we wrap things up. Making a college visit. So let's just look at the best case scenario that you're able to visit a college physically somewhere down the road before decisions are made, visit a college campus. You've got to ask yourself when you're there, can I see myself? Can I feel myself being on this campus and living here possibly? You got to get that gut feeling. I think that's really important. Don't discount the importance of that. Some other things that when you visit a campus, some things you need to know, or things that you can do, I should say, talk to professors. You know, if you see some guy that looks scholarly, stop him and ask him if he's a professor or not, and talk to him and ask some questions you might have. Talk to students. I have learned students usually don't lie to other students. Kids don't lie to kids. They'll tell you the truth. Ask them some questions about the campus. They'll be honest with you. Visit the library, visit student housing, ask if you can walk in and get a feel for the vibe and what it's like. Tour the campus, do an official tour, but do your own unofficial tour as well. Remember, you don't want to just stay on the official tour. They tend to avoid, you know, the warts of the campus and the bad spots of the campus. So just kind of wander around. You might find yourself wandering into the back of the kitchen, but that's okay. Observe a class in session if you can. You might need to make prior arrangements for this, or if you meet that professor on campus, like I mentioned, you can ask, hey, you mind if I stop by one of your class sessions today if he's still teaching? Eat in the dining commons. Get a feel for what it's like. Read the campus newspaper. We mentioned that earlier. Get a feel for the vibe of the campus. Again, check out the study labs, the technology labs. Read the bulletin boards around campus. Kind of see what's going on, what students are posting. And then tour the surrounding community. Are you comfortable with what's around the campus? Other things to do when you're on the visit, ask them questions. When you talk to students or other faculty, what's the best and worst part about the college? What's the structure of classes, length? How long are they usually? How often do they meet? Some schools have different non-traditional type of schedules. What's the academic support program like? These are just kind of ask some questions that we've already mentioned earlier. Student activities, size of the campus, average class size. What's a typical day like? Ask a student that question. What's a typical day like for you here on this campus? Ask a student this question. If you were in my position, making a choice if to attend this campus or not, would you choose to come to this school again? See what they have to say. It's interesting to see what the response would be. What percentage of students graduate in 4 years? We mentioned that earlier. How many of them are involved in fraternities or sororities? How many teacher assistant, grad assistants are there, teaching classes? And then what are weekends like on campus? You got to know that, you know, is it really, really, really quiet? Is that what you want? Is there a lot of activity going on? And then this is important for some, are there study abroad opportunities? You know, in the middle of your studies, your second or third year, you might go to another country to study for a semester. Do they have those opportunities for you? What else you can do to learn about a campus? Get on their mailing list. Go on their webpage, see if you can get on a mailing list. Check out their web pages, their blogs. Try to contact local representatives. If this is a off-camp or a campus that's out of state, I should say, there are probably graduates of that campus that live in our area and they represent that university. Find out who they are, try to start communicating with them. Virtual tours, watching videos, check out their Facebook. When checking things out this summer and this fall, let's set the table here a little bit, and this will lead right into our admissions video, which is the next video message we're going to give to you in a few days. When checking out schools, check out what's called the net price calculator, that first line up there. Moms and dads, you're going to want to pay attention to this. Every university, I believe they're required to have a net price calculator on their webpage where you can input numbers and find out what it would cost your family to send you to that university. So that's a pretty good little tool. Check that out. Keep your eye open this summer for scholarship opportunities, definitely in the fall for scholarship opportunities. Obviously, what this whole message is about, this summer you should be creating your list of 10 colleges, for example. Start working on your admission essay responses. We hit on that in another message here in a few days. Check out the applications as they start becoming live. The Common app becomes live August 1st. The UC app becomes live on August the 1st. Also, the Cal State becomes live October the 1st. Now, don't get all crazy on me right now. You're going to learn all about this here in our next video message, so don't panic. Start working on your UC personal insight questions. You have to answer 4 of the 8 prompts, but you can start working on that this summer. And definitely start working on your Diamond Bar High School senior profile packet. Right now, you should be going, what the heck is that? Well, that is video message number 5, which will be coming to you June the 9th, which is in just one short week. You'll have all kinds of details about that. Attend workshops on the Diamond Bar High School campus in the fall. Hopefully, we're all physically back on campus. We're going to have financial aid workshops. We're going to have Cal State and UC application workshops. Community college workshops are more in the middle of the year in January, but in the fall, we're going to have all kinds of great things for you to do. Well, this wraps our video message number 3 up. Enjoy this process, guys and gals. It should not be a stressful process like, oh my God, I don't know, this is horrible. It should be a fun process. You're picking out a possible school that you're going to live at maybe for 4 years. Enjoy the process. That's very, very important. Have fun with it. Mrs. Duenas?
Thanks for listening, guys. We hope these videos are helpful to you as you start this process. But yeah, ask questions, do your research, and best of luck to you as you're researching this stuff.
And check out the webpage, guys. We're posting this video presentation, the actual PowerPoint, and that organizing your college search document will be posted to the 2021 webpage. Peace.
Bye, guys.